Joining us now from New York, actually, with the president, Hogan Gidley, the deputy press secretary to the president of the United States and deputy assistant to the president. Hogan, great to have you.
It's great to be with you. Forgive me, I'm actually in the motorcade as we speak, and so cell service could drop, and if it does, you'll understand why. But yes, I'm in the...
You're in the Beast, right? You're in the motorcade Beast.
No, I'm not. No. I'm in a staff van behind.
No, you're the staff man behind the Beast. Okay, same thing. All right, look, I loved the president's speech yesterday. I loved his plan. I would have preferred, more E-Verify, a reduction in some of the immigration numbers. But here's been my message, Hogan, all day. Let's not the perfect be the enemy of the really great, okay? This is a great plan. And you know what else I loved? I loved the fact that at the end of his delivery, which was phenomenal in the Rose Garden, he didn't take questions because the legacy fake news media, my colleagues there sitting in front of me, I'm always in the back, sitting in front of me would have turned the thing into a 3-ring circus. And that's what they wanted to do, and he didn't do it. He just turned and walked back in. Tell me the highlights of this plan.
Well, look, I think it has two parts, and it's vital to the protection of the safety and security of the American people. One is border security. And we've talked about that. We're building the wall now. We expect to have around 400 miles built by the end of next year. And we're also talking about adding 100% screening for everything that comes across the border, people, vehicles, all types of trade, cargo ships, that type of thing, so that we know exactly what's coming in. That tamps down on drugs pouring into the country, also human trafficking, child smuggling. Those are all going to be monitored and rooted out with the border protection piece of this. But the second piece, and you touched on it briefly, was merit-based immigration. We want people to come to this country, but we want the best and brightest. We want the ones who can come in here and contribute to our economy, to actually help us raise wages and not depress them. And there's so many people across this country who are stuck and can't get here, who could be massive contributors to this economy, because right now the system is set up in a random manner that favors people just because they have a family member in this country. And it's not necessarily immediate families. We want to protect these mothers, children. This is about third cousins twice removed and great-great-grandparents of somebody else and uncles and aunts that keep coming into this country that don't necessarily contribute. We want people to come here on a merit-based system. We think that raises all boats. And right now, we've seen no real conversations with the Democrats to help further the conversation. But, you can always be optimistic. The president laid it out pretty clearly in the Rose Garden, and we're taking it directly to the American people yet again.
Well, look, Hogan, that's what you have to do. And I predicted yesterday that the Democrats would have prepared remarks. As soon as the speech was over, they'd blast it without even knowing what's in it. They're not going to work with him. They don't care. But I think what he outlined yesterday is a sensible plan. And as far as a merit-based system, look, Canada does it. Australia does it. There's a lot of countries that do it. We're the only one, basically, that takes anybody on a non skills basis. And it's just simple to understand. I mean, if for instance, if we identify that we have a need for truck drivers, and there are truck drivers in Somalia, they go to the front of the line. If we have a need for pipe fitters, and there's pipe fitters in Haiti, they're going to the top of the line because the president knows when they get here, they're going to have ample employment and get jobs. Here's the other thing he said. He said, we have the most generous welfare programs in the world. We're the envy of the world. We have a great social safety net. Let's bring young people in who can have jobs, who can pay into the safety net for our aging Americans and those with disability, etc. Instead of the opposite, those that come in pay nothing in and then all of a sudden take advantage of it immediately because they're, 67 years old. These are the things I think that are common sense that he talked about. And but obviously
the immigration system hasn't been touched in 50 years. I mean, you hit on it. Now, we need to fix the immediate problem. Senator Graham has a bill that does that with closing loopholes. But our piece of legislation that's going to be rolled out in its entirety in a few weeks will also address some of the asylum claims that have been proven to be false and fraudulent. I mean, we have 1 million people in this country right now who've already had their court cases who have already been judged to not have the right to be in this country. Their final deportation orders have been issued, and they're still here. 1 million people. That kind of stuff has to stop. And let's be honest, as you just said, we're the most generous nation in the country as it relates to immigration. Also, that generosity needs to be implemented on those who actually deserve our help, who need asylum, not ones who make fake, fraudulent claims at asylum. And that's where we're getting bogged down right now. And if the rules were such that it really expedited removal of those who had no right to be here, then the ones who actually had legitimate claims and who needed safety and safe harbor in this country would get it almost immediately, because right now the system is clogged with those who aren't telling the truth.
What is the percentage of what the president outlined Hogan Gidley yesterday? By the way, we're with Hogan Gidley, Deputy Press Secretary to President Trump and Deputy Assistant to the President. Hogan, the President yesterday gave these figures, and he said, look, we don't want to not allow legitimate people that are seeking asylum to come into the United States. But what did he say, like not only 9 or 10% of those that have an asylum claim, it's actually found to be accurate, that almost 90% are thrown out when they finally do have a hearing? Are those the numbers?
That is correct. That is correct. It is a very infinitesimal number of the people who actually claim asylum, and I think we've even chronicled on your show before, but there's been a 1,700% increase in the credible fear claim under asylum law.
Right.
But those time, if you just point out, aren't accurate, that they don't have a legitimate asylum claim to be in this country. And before anyone says that's harsh, what's harsh is the people who actually deserve it from war-torn nations, people who are being persecuted for political beliefs or religious beliefs. Those are the ones who deserve asylum, not the ones who just claim it, hoping to get here and get on the government dime. That's the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems we face in the asylum system itself.
So, Hogan Gidley, the Democrats have already said they're not going to work with the president on this legislation. They said it's dead on arrival, forget it, not interested. It got blasted roundly by all of them yesterday, all the presidential candidates who prefer open borders, which is really the only alternative to this. So you're going to take it to the American people, and I remember the president saying that either it'll be negotiated for 2019 or it'll be decided in the 2020 election. It's not going to be negotiated. So does this become one of the hallmarks of the president's theme to get reelected and get Republican majorities in 2020?
Well, obviously, I can't talk about the campaign side. What I can tell you, though, is that this is something he wants done, and he wants done immediately, so we can protect our country from having this problem occur in another few years. We want a lasting solution here. Now, if Democrats don't want to negotiate or have a conversation about fixing the crisis along our southern border or the immigration issues we face, then that's something they're going to have to deal with on their own side and in their own time. And if it happens to follow along the election timeline, so be it. The fact is, the president is very confident about where he is. The American people understand the fact we need to change our immigration laws, and this is one way to do it. Instead of muddying the thing, and I know you mentioned some of the guest worker visa programs at the outset, because that immediately puts people in different camps. It immediately divides people. What we can agree on is that we need people in this country. What we should be able to agree on in a bipartisan fashion is we need people in this country who want to be here, who want to assimilate here, and who want to contribute to America. It's the greatest idea in the history of the earth. And we want people here who agree with that sentiment and who want to be a part of this great nation.
Hogan, let's shift gears here a minute and go to A.G. Barr and his appointing the other day. And
just so you know, I've got about a minute left, and I'm going to have to jump on the helicopter. So
all right, one
let you know.
1 minute. What do you look for in the investigation of the investigators?
Well, look, I think it's been pretty clearly out of the election that he wants to understand how we got here in the first place. He has said, Republican or Democrat, no president deserves to have this happen to them. And as you begin peel back the layers and understand that people were wiretapped, people were spied upon, a warrant was issued based on a false dossier we now know has no out there. And I understand the Democrats don't want to focus on that because it doesn't fit their narrative, and it could have happened under the watchful eye of President Obama and the DNC and others. But the fact is, no American, not just the president, no American should have to go through that. There are laws that protect us against that type of behavior, and we've got to find out just what happened. And the president wants, he said publicly, he wants the attorney to get to the bottom of it, and I'm sure in his infinite wisdom.
All right, we're out of time. Hogan, get on your helicopter. Thanks for squeezing us in today. I really appreciate it. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.